Well, hello, Kelley, again for the second time this week. So
Yes.
happy to
Hi.
chat with you on the podcast.
Hi, Carrie. Yes. Thanks for having me. So happy we're able to do a little podcast swap this week.
I love it. And we're talking about one of my favorite things ever, packaging. And I know that's
Hmm.
one of your favorite things. So yeah, I'm excited for this episode. Before we dive in, just tell everyone who you are and what you do in your business.
Sure. Hi, I am Kelley Kempel. I am the owner of Hidden Path Creative, a graphic design studio that works with product-based businesses to support them with branding and packaging design to get their products seen and sold. I started my business about 2 years ago, and prior to that, I was in the corporate retail world working in-house for a couple of retailers doing their private brand identities and packaging. So that's kind of what got me started in this.
Nice. Do you care to share the people that you worked for? Because I know they're just teeny businesses that no one would ever hear of.
Yes, you probably never heard of them. So I was at Dick's Sporting Goods for 8 years, and that was, super exciting because when I started, it was like we had a teeny tiny team doing private brand and private brand packaging. And over the years it grew, but there I worked on like everything from tree stands to golf balls, shoes, gloves, everything, packaging for everything in between. And then after that, I went to Kohl's where I led the packaging design team there for 10 years. And you might be familiar with Kohl's. It's a US retailer across the country. They're kind of a department store format. So everything from apparel for the entire family, home goods, luggage, shoes, appliances, you name it. If you need it for your home or for your family, you can probably get it at Kohl's. And about 50% of the store is private brand. So about 50% of the products in there, my team worked on the branding
Mhm.
and the packaging for, which was
So
pretty cool.
cool. That's
Mhm.
so cool. And I think that's really cool too, that you can take your experience working in very corporate, I mean, those are very corporate type stores, and
Yes.
then launching your own business where, you don't have to like report to people and you don't have to like probably ask permission to go to the bathroom. Just kidding.
No. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they used to schedule me in back-to-back meetings, so I would have to schedule in
Mhm.
my bathroom breaks. But yes, I was definitely craving the autonomy to
Mhm.
do my own thing and make my own decisions, which has been really awesome running my own business.
Yeah, but I also think it probably helps you so much because like I also came from kind of a more corporate-ish. It's kind of like a corporate startup in a sense, but it was an Australian company, but they started offices in the US. So I was part of that team, and that was my last job before I started my business. And it was like a big company that's been around for 20 something years, but like kind of in like a startup mode in the US. So I kind of got the best of both worlds, but I do feel like for a lot of people that start their own business now, they kind of graduate from college and they're like, I want to live the laptop lifestyle. And like they just start a business. And I think coming from more of a corporate background, you have so many more business foundationals that you learn. And yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah, and I would completely agree with that. Like corporate structure, understanding that like what you're doing impacts the business every day and kind of just, how to run a
Mhm.
team was really helpful in starting a business.
Nice.
Mhm.
So let's talk about packaging. I know that you help people with their packaging, and there's just so much packaging stuff to unpack. So let's just kind of dive
Yeah.
into it. So when it comes to packaging, what let's talk about the mistakes that people make.
Yeah.
Obviously packaging is super important. We all know that, blah, blah, blah. But I want to talk about like all the mistakes people make. What are the top few mistakes that you think are destroying people's product packaging? And I would love to hear your opinion. What's the impact of those mistakes?
Sure. Well, I mean, first and foremost, your packaging can be one of the most can be one of the hardest working assets for your business from a marketing standpoint, from a sales standpoint. If your packaging is done really well, it's going to sell your product for you. So if you're in that maker phase where you're still selling at markets and fairs, you're talking about your product to sell it. But making that transition to having your product in more places, you need to have packaging that speaks for your product, draws somebody in, and convinces them to buy. That's what you're doing when you're standing at the table. So your packaging needs to do that for you. And I mean, one of the top mistakes is, well, let me try and put every single piece of information about my product onto the package. That front of package needs to be eye-catching and pretty simple. Like somebody needs to be able to look at it, scan past it, and without stopping, understand what your product is and what it's going to do for them. If they have to struggle to figure that out, if they have to work to figure that out, they're going to move on to the next product that's next to it that has better packaging. So, and it's a combination, right? It's like your visuals, it's your materials, it's your colors, it's your text. All of those things have to work together. But we're visual creatures. We see visuals. We understand visuals before we read text. So making sure that those design choices communicate what your product is. So that's probably like one of the biggest mistakes, is not telling a customer, not showing a customer what your product is and what it does immediately. And then just trying to cram all of the information, like made with XYZ wax for your candle, or made with this thickness of fabric for, whatever your product is. The customer doesn't necessarily care about those things unless it's like a value that they hold. So what you want to do instead is, like, if you've picked a thicker material because it's going to be durable, last longer, you want to infuse a message that's more like that, rather than listing out like the money that you spent on the product, essentially. And that was even something that I saw in corporate. I'd have product developers coming in and saying like, well, I want to get credit for paying for this in the product. And it's like, well, the customer doesn't care. The customer's not reading your like contents list and tallying up how much you spent to make the product and then going, I should pay you more money for that. No, they're going like, this is a better item. This is going to do something for my life. This candle is going to burn longer and smell better. Okay, I'm getting a better value for my money. I'd rather buy that candle.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I just want to clarify. So when you're talking about packaging and like the labels and a lot of information, are you referring more to like items in store with like an exterior? Like, let's say, for example, I have this right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's a Drunk Elephant like miracle butter. I'm obsessed. So all their stuff comes in like really pretty packaging, and I'm like obsessed with all their stuff. I'm sure I can guess you'd probably like it too.
Yes.
So for packaging, like, do you consider this I feel like I'm showing you, like people listening can see. So I'm holding up a little bottle of Drunk Elephant. It's like moisturizer, like really thick moisturizer, but it's not in an exterior packaging. It's just like in a little tube. What's it called? A tube?
It's in a tube.
I can't think today. So is that
okay,
packaging or is that a label, or I just want to make sure people can follow along. Like, do you consider both of those packaging?
Both of those are packaging. Okay. So if I'm getting really technical, that Drunk Elephant tube is what you would call the primary packaging, because it holds the product, which is the moisturizer. And that's actually a really interesting one, because I told you I could talk about packaging all day. That's an interesting one, because that moisturizer can't exist outside of that packaging. So that package becomes synonymous with the product. So that tube is the primary package. And then if Drunk Elephant puts that in an outer paper box, that paper box is the secondary packaging.
Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
for clarifying.
You're welcome. No problem. So it's always super interesting, because like essentially anything that you're putting on your product that identifies your brand, identifies the product, or is some sort of marketing is considered packaging. So if you're talking about like the sweater that I'm wearing, which I'm wearing a cardigan, it's got a woven label in the back neck. That woven label is packaging. the tag that goes on this would be packaging, just as much as like the box that my podcast microphone came in is packaging. And so it really kind of, the type of packaging depends on what your product is. But essentially, anytime you have a product and you're going to sell it, whether you're going to sell it online or you're going to sell it in stores, there's going to be some sort of packaging associated with it. And I would say that's another mistake that I see, is discounting branded packaging when somebody has an e-commerce product, a direct-to-consumer product. I hear that a lot. Meeting, like doing consultations with prospective clients, somebody will say, I don't really want to put that much money into it because I'm only selling it online. Well, somebody's still going to receive your product and experience it. And that package, whether it's your shipper box, your poly mailer, the tag that's on the sweater, the label that's on the candle, the box that, whatever, home garden item you're selling comes in, that's the first thing your customer is going to experience. That is your opportunity to make your best first impression. And that is an experience that you have complete control over. So it doesn't mean you need to blow your budget on the packaging, but definitely brand it, definitely put some information on it, definitely give your customers a way to reach out to you and engage with you, because there's no other time you get to do that. So it, like, lots of times I met with a client who wanted to sell some pricey jewelry, some higher end jewelry. And I said, okay, well, what, you're talking about the jewelry box. What about the shipper box? And I'm just going to throw it in a FedEx box. I'm sorry. You want your customers to spend 4 digits on a bracelet, and you're going to throw it in a FedEx box. That's not a great experience. That's not something that somebody is going to feel great about getting. They're going to go, they threw this in a box and it's kind of moving around. What does that say about the quality of the product? Even if somebody doesn't immediately say that, that is psychologically, that's unconsciously what we think. That's why if you walk into a store, you might notice that, like, there's a dinged up box or a dinged up container. We all do this at the grocery store. You go to pick up, could be Kraft macaroni and cheese. The first one in the front has like a ding in the corner. You think to yourself,
it does. I put it in the back.
You put it in the back and you reach around and you grab the one that's not dinged and you take it home.
I totally do that. I never actually thought about why I did that before, but that makes sense.
Right. And that is the thing about packaging. Like, we don't always think about like why we make a decision about it, because it is influencing the decision. But you look at that dinged up box and you go, is the macaroni in there broken? Did something get in there when it got dinged up?
Yeah.
Like, you just trust it a little less. So you grab one that's intact. So that's the other thing. It's like, you want to make sure that you've got materials that protect your product. You want to test them a little, and you just want to make sure it looks nice, because it's that visual that is going to build or detract from the trust that your customers have.
I totally agree. And I want to ask you, kind of just off of that. So we all live in the world of Amazon packaging, where, we order from Amazon, we type something into a little search, and then, our kids' underwear shows up 2 days later, or our hair products and whatever else we need. And we get the brown box, we open it up. It's like usually a huge box, and then your little teeny product is in the middle. And like, we kind of don't think anything of it. We expect Amazon to have the boring brown packaging. So I want to ask your opinion here. And this could be like, I don't know what you're going to say. Do you feel like Amazon's boring packaging makes it, like, do you feel like it makes it okay? Or do you feel like it skews people's expectations? Now people expect boring packaging. So when you have this really nice jewelry product, or you have this beautiful clothing brand where I just ordered, $100, $150, you know, fancy bag or something. Maybe that's not really fancy for 150. I don't know, whatever. Say I order that and I get it in the mail and it comes in a brown box. Like, am I now so, what's the word? Like, you're programmed to think, oh, Amazon brown boxes, this is normal. Have we normalized, or has Amazon normalized the ugly brown, boring packaging for everyone else? What are your thoughts?
I don't think that Amazon has normalized the ugly brown packaging. I think that their packaging matches their experience and our expectation. Our expectation of Amazon is that I am going to get something at the best value in the fastest way possible.
Mm-hmm.
So that expectation doesn't line up with the most beautiful custom experience. Like you said, you're going on there buying like your daily necessities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going on there to buy my daily necessities out of convenience. So I don't need it to show up in the most beautiful, beautiful box. When you buy something special for yourself, when you splurge on that beautiful sweater, you're almost buying yourself a gift. So that $100 sweater better come in a nice package. Otherwise, you're probably going to return it because you're going to feel like you didn't get the value that you signed up for there. Versus the value of Amazon is it shows up really fast. Now, if Amazon was, let's say, doing like beautiful custom boxes with a soft touch finish and a magnetic closure for the 30 necessities that I order in a month,
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably stop ordering because it would feel frivolous. It would feel like the deliveries were overpackaged, and I would feel guilty about that level of waste. So it's kind of like a cognitive dissonance type of conversation. But I do think when you're talking about like, has Amazon normalized this brown box? That brown box has visually become synonymous with their brand. It's a brown box with a blue tape, and then they use the brown box with the black printing to include marketing messages for whatever it is they're pushing, whether it's, I think right now they're pushing like Amazon Music, or Amazon Prime, or a new show. But we kind of tune out that noise because we see so many of them. The thing that we notice is, oh, I'm looking on my porch cam and I've got another brown box with the blue and black tape. Mm-hmm. Amazon delivered.
Yeah.
It's so synonymous with their brand that they've made it the icon of their app on your phone.
That's right.
Yeah. So they made a choice. It's not a high-end choice. It's not a luxury choice. Mm-hmm. It's just a choice that matches the experience. So I personally think they've made a great choice with that because it's recognizable to the point where you don't even realize that you're recognizing it anymore.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And like, I was curious your opinion on the whole, like, has Amazon normalized the ugly, boring brown box? And I agree with you. I would disagree. And if like one of my clients said that to me, I would be like, I don't agree with you. No, you're not going to do boring brown packaging. No, you can't.
Not when you have so many other options.
Yeah.
And, depending on what you're shipping and depending on where you're at in your business, if you're just starting out, if you're, a couple years in and you're still growing your audience, you're still growing your sales, that brown box might be what you can afford within your overhead, within your profit margins right now. That doesn't mean that you have to give up a branded experience to do that, because you have the opportunities to customize it with branded tape, branded stickers, the inserts you put in, the style of box that you choose to purchase, where you choose to put your shipping label. You still have so many choices to customize it. But I don't know, customers want to feel they want to feel that trust when they order something and it shows up that it's what they purchased. So taking a little care into what you choose and how you pack it goes a long way.
Yes, absolutely. And I love that you brought up like some simple options for branded packaging, because I agree with you, of course. I'm sitting here like, yep, I love everything. I think branded packaging tape is such an easy way to take a simple box. You can buy a simple brown, white, black. I love black boxes that are, it's one of my favorites, with branded packaging tape on it. Simple, easy. It looks freaking amazing. Ooh, what is that?
I
love that.
I just got this yesterday.
Kelly's holding up a brown box in the video.
Oh, it's actually black. So it is a black.
Wait, what did I say? I said brown.
You said brown.
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant black.
So it's just a black corrugate mailer box.
I like that.
This is actually, I think I told you about this. This is the soap that I ordered for my nieces for their birthdays this week. Cute. Yes.
I like that.
Unicorn whipped soap. Honestly, Margot.
That's super cute.
What is the brand? Soak Bath and Beauty.
I like that.
This black mailer box looks so slick.
I love black packaging. I think like black packaging, white packaging tape with like something on it. Really, really good. So yeah, you have options. I personally always advise people, please don't use craft. Like, we can do better than craft. If you currently use brown boxes, that's okay. We can still be friends. But I just feel like the brown box is Amazon's thing. We want to not be Amazon. Plus a brown box does not look great in images. No. I have spent 7 years obsessing over goddamn packaging to look great in photos, and the craft box looks blah in photos. So that's my thoughts. But I want to ask you one more thing, since we're talking about like packaging and showing up on your doorstep. Someone like fought me on this last week on social media, and I loved it, of course. I'm like, yes, I love when people like, let's talk about it. Let's debate, because I have my opinions. You have yours. Mine don't have to be right. It's just, that's what I think. And I'm very like passionate about what I think. I posted a video of one of my clients who she's a home decor business, and she sells all these like luxurious home decor things. So I bought one of her blankets, and I got the box in the mail, and it's like a black marble. The box is like it looks like like black marble.
Ooh, yes. I saw this on your feed. It looked beautiful.
Beautiful. Like one of the best packaging I've ever seen in 7 years. And you open it up, and there's like this beautiful writing on the inside of the box. And then there's like, something else somewhere. I forget. She has like postcards or something. And so I did a video, and I was like, let's look at some packaging options. Which of these two packaging like would make you whip out your phone and take a video? And I like held up a brown box, and I was like, boring. And then I held up the black marble, and I was like, this one. And I opened it up and I showcased it. And someone made a comment like, what did they say? They said something like, oh, well, that package is definitely going to get stolen. So I forget what they said. So I prefer like a simple brown box, because I just want my packaging to show up in the mail. And I was like, you can have like in all the years that I've had my business, I think there was like one or two packages that ever got stolen. And I had a beautiful, beautiful lavender, insane looking box, like one of the coolest packaging ever. Not to toot my own horn, but like, the packaging was awesome, and it was bright purple and really pretty. And like, I rarely ever got people to steal it, So anyway, I kind of commented back and forth a little bit. I wasn't being rude, but like, I was like, I disagree, and here's why.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like,
I think this is really interesting. So, number one, I will say, like, back to the potential client that had the, $1,000 jewelry that wanted to put it in a FedEx box. That outer mailer box, I wouldn't have branded very large, because as soon as you go to like very high ticket items,
you don't
like anything from Apple. Yeah. You don't want those stolen. So you don't want to write what they are on the box. You want to be more discreet. However, something that is like a mailer that is like bright or very eye-catching, and I don't think it's going to get stolen because, I mean, if somebody walks up to your door and picks up a bright purple box and walks down the street with it, someone's going to ask them what they're carrying.
Or they're going to be like, oh, damn, I don't want this goddamn mermaid soap. And they're going to throw it in the alley.
Yes. So,
Yeah.
I think that there are times when like printed outer shippers actually deter porch pirates. But at the same time, I also think that the value from the recognition and memorability that you get from creating a beautiful shipper box experience and creating porch presence where neighbors can see the branding and become aware of the brand or be reminded of the brand, where the purchaser can recognize that the thing is what they bought and be surprised and excited about the experience, far outweighs the potential loss or stealability. I think if you were to actually look at the numbers on that, like you said, when you had your business, you had very little, packages stolen from people's porches.
Yeah.
I think that it's kind of I don't see designing a beautiful experience being a giant magnet for that. I think the positives of what you can get in terms of brand awareness and customer engagement outweigh the loss.
And like one thing, like I had ordered a planner from, I think the Content Planner or something, and it came in the mail and it came in a brown box. And I was like, okay, fine. And I opened it up and it was like, oh my God, it was this beautiful branded everything. One of the most beautiful unboxing experiences I've ever done. I freaked out. I'm pretty sure I have the videos on my phone somewhere. Whenever people ask me like, what's your favorite thing that you've ever unboxed, that experience comes to mind every single time. It was pretty unreal. But again, they put it in a brown exterior. So one might argue, oh, well, that's a waste. That's a waste of materials. That's a waste of whatever. But I was like, well, I guess it's pretty smart because then it kind of does, like most people aren't going to probably go for the brown. I don't know. I mean, I think you're going to get people that are like, oh, well, you're, and I want to ask you a question about eco-friendly materials because I get asked that a lot actually. I think you can't go wrong with doing exterior, or you could do like a poly mailer. I used to buy white poly mailers from Amazon, and sometimes I would ship my boxes in those because either I was sending them to like an influencer and I didn't want them to get damaged, or I was sending them as gifts. All the gift boxes got put into a poly mailer, so it didn't get ruined and they were surprised at what it was. So I do think there's workarounds than just having like, oh, well, I don't want people to steal my stuff, so I'm just going to put it in a brown box. Like there are workarounds here. You just have to kind of be a little bit creative. But I am curious, like when it comes to the argument of like waste and like too much excess packaging and like, what are your thoughts on that? But I would love for you to talk about like, now that people are a little bit more conscious of like the environment and recycled materials, what can people that want to be minimal with packaging and do eco-friendly, like what are your recommendations for those? And like, do you have any companies that exclusively do printing that are eco-friendly?
Okay, these are all really good questions.
I feel like I just asked you like 3 different questions all built into one, so I'm sorry.
That's okay. So let's start with eco-friendly packaging, sustainability in packaging.
Right.
I personally think this is a tough nut to crack. I think it's something where, each business kind of has to take a step back and take a look at like, what are your values and what is important to you to convey in terms of sustainability, and how do you want to contribute to sustainability. And I say that because there's just no perfect solution. There's not. There's, we can talk about like sustainable papers. One of the things that I actually think is most sustainable is not using it's not recycled content papers, which I think, there's an assumption that because a material is made from recycled content, that it's therefore more sustainable. But ultimately, you have to look at what happens throughout the supply chain when a material is made from recycled content. How does that content get to be recycled? How does that content then get to be processed? And then how does it get turned into the new material? And that's not to say that like what is called virgin material, which is essentially like brand new, no recycled content, is the way to go. What I actually like to look for is FSC certified papers, particularly when I'm looking at papers, because what that FSC is the Forest Stewardship Council, and they track the trees from growth to paper. And so if you ever buy anything that's in paper packaging and it's got a little rectangular icon with a tree in it and the FSC on it, it's made with FSC certified paper, and it's been tracked the whole way through the supply chain. And they have a variety of products, it's not even that they make the products. They're really just the certification. Many different companies have FSC papers or materials. Corrugates too, because corrugate is essentially paper. So having that certified, you can be sure when you have FSC certified materials that when a tree is harvested for the paper, more trees are being planted in its place. So that is a sustainable supply chain. And they do, and like I said, they do a variety between like straight up virgin paper versus paper that's like a mix of recycled content. And I do like recycled content papers. The one thing that I'm not a fan of is, it's funny that you were saying you're not a fan of craft. So when it comes to clients that I've worked with where I design boxes, so not necessarily shipping boxes, but boxes that products come in. Like I've done some different like home decor items that like come in a paper box. Craft material has the connotation that the material is sustainable or recycled. A lot of craft papers in the market, though, are not made with recycled content. So I'm not a huge fan of using the craft materials to denote that something is sustainable, but it is a current trend in the market. I'm actually a huge fan of try and go for like the minimal amount of packaging that you can, and then use your graphics to make it as impactful as you can. So if you're putting something in a box, don't put too much air in it. Don't have there be too much space around it. If you're going to put a hang tag on something, make it simple and small. Make sure that there's enough room to get your logo on there, a piece of information about the product, and your UPC or pricing information. But it doesn't have to be like a giant billboard hanging off of something. And I think when you can get things that are recyclable, I almost feel like having like a material that is truly recyclable, it can be more impactful from a sustainability component than having recycled content in it. Because if you put recycled content in something and then like, let's say you have a recycled content paper and then you use a coating, like any sort of laminate coating is a plastic, and then that paper can't be recycled. So you have to kind of look at like, what are the finishes you're putting on something? Is anything that you're doing going to cause your item not to be able to be recycled? Because then you're the end of that sustainability life cycle, and you don't want to be the end of it. You want to be in the middle of it and have it be more of a circle.
Gotcha.
I feel like that was kind of like a windy answer around sustainability.
That's
But
okay.
it's just so hard. It's not clear cut.
No, and I know a lot of companies too, all like the whole like, I don't know if it's called whitewashing, or I don't know, maybe that's not the right word, but they're making it seem like they're greenwashing.
Greenwashing, yeah.
Sorry. I don't know what's wrong. I got very bad sleep last night. I got a new mattress and I felt like I was sleeping on a pile of rocks last night. So that was very fun.
That's not
Like
good.
hard as a like I was like sleeping on a floor, like a hardwood floor last night. Anyway, I feel like I can't think. Yeah, I mean, a lot of brands are trying to make themselves seem more eco-friendly and sustainable, but they're actually not. So I do get a lot of people that ask me about just like eco-friendly packaging options. And, while I think that's great, I think if that's part of your brand and your brand values, and like you have like one of my past clients, we at one point I had suggested to her, like, I think we should work on your packaging and just make it a little bit more vibrant or something. And she had said that like her audience and her customers are definitely like more minimalist, and like they are more like they want more eco-friendly and sustainability and like minimal packaging. And I was like, okay, like that's great. Like you have to know your customer, you have to know your brand. If you are an eco-friendly brand, it doesn't make sense to have packaging that can't be recycled. Like it has to kind of go hand in hand. So,
It does.
and I just want to ask you one more question before, you tell everyone how they can work with you.
Yeah.
What are like one or two brands that you just think have like incredible packaging? Like what's your absolute favorites?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I feel like this changes all the time because I am such a joy to shop with. I get distracted constantly. I mean, I can be shopping for groceries and stop in the grocery store and say, like, oh, I have not seen this before. That's a great way to do some icons and some features on a panel. So, well, let's see. I'm thinking about this for a minute because the other thing is I collect all sorts of packaging items. I'm looking to see if I've got anything in here today. I've been looking at things in like the accessories realm lately. I was doing something for a client last year that was like more in like the bedding realm, and Slip with their like eye masks and their scrunchies. So they're like it's like sleep wellness. So, like keeping your hair from like getting like the bumps while you sleep, and eye masks to, block out the light to get better sleep. And it's kind of like a luxury, right? It's like a little everyday luxury to buy something like that for yourself, because you don't really need like a silk scrunchie or an eye mask, but like it might help you sleep better. It might help you feel, make your morning a little easier. So like they have a nice reveal with their packaging where it's a tray and a sleeve. So you pull the tray out.
I like that.
Beautiful
that.
branding on the front. Because like always thinking about that experience, like how does somebody open your box and then see your product? And then having that product in the tray, it's like it looks special. And then they color coordinate the boxes with the product on the inside.
Oh, I like that.
So if you're if you ordered a pink scrunchie and eye mask set, it's in a pink box that matches if it's like champagne colored or purple. And I'm actually sure it probably helps them in their warehouse to like pick and pack very fast because the boxes are the same color as the product. So that was always something really interesting in retail, as we get requests for making packaging choices to make it easy for the stores and the associates in the stores that are like stocking the shelves. And while I always like to argue that we should be designing for the the customer or the end user versus somebody in a store. I have come to appreciate that sometimes packaging can do both. It can make it easier, like along the way, as well as make it like a really great experience for customers. And then the other thing that I think is really interesting right now is there's a variety of different beverage options coming to market. I know you mentioned one on the podcast last week, earlier this week, but lots of the alcohol alternative beverages, the items with adaptogens, CBD,
yes,
non-alcoholic beers. And some of this is also like seeing some like changes in aluminum can printing. So I think it's becoming more accessible for people to get fully printed cans in lower quantities. I think about the craft beer market, which I'm quite familiar with as a transplanted Wisconsinite. We love our beer and cheese out here. But for like the longest time, like, you know, what was accessible to craft beer was a can with a printed sticker label, which looks fine if you've got like really great artwork, but like the fully printed cans always looked better. Or the, you know, the bottle with the label, but the, you know, cans are like a little more eco-friendly and a little more accessible. Well, now that there are, you know, full wraps that you can get for the cans versus direct printing on the can, I think it's really, really opened some things up. So I love kind of looking and seeing like different can shapes, how people are applying different materials to that. I feel like earlier this week I was looking at like some like alcohol alternative beverages with lots of like really beautiful gradients and things. And I think a lot of some of the visual trends for packaging start in more of that beverage market and then can be applied to other areas.
I definitely agree. And I was trying to think of this coffee brand that I discovered because I'm trying to do my own rebranding, and I've been like just diving into Pinterest and just different things. And I came across this coffee image, and I was just like, oh my God, just love at first sight. I don't know. And I'm trying to think of the name now and I can't think of it. I'll have to let you know, but it was absolutely phenomenal. It was just super unique and fun. And it's like little coffee beans that are sold in these like small little boxes, but the branding and the packaging is, I don't know. I mean, I definitely love packaging, but when I see one that like, it's like it takes your breath away kind of packaging. I was like love at first sight with packaging. That's how I felt about it. And I wish that I could remember what it was, but instantly I was like, oh, I wish that was my brand. I'll have to let you know, but I'll have to also find it and post it in the podcast show notes so everyone knows what the hell I'm talking about. But that's the thing, like packaging has the power to stop someone in their scroll when you're scrolling through social media, scrolling through Pinterest, scrolling through a blog post. Here are the top 10 best coffee brands you should be following in 2023. And you're scrolling through, and then there's that one that's just like, wow, that's beautiful. That's the one you're going to click on, you know, and packaging has like the sheer power to do that. So
it really does.
Yeah, I love it so much. Well, this was super fun, Kelley. Such a fun time chatting with you about packaging.
Yes.
And tell everyone just where they can find you and how do you work with people? How can they help you? How can you help them?
So you can find me on Instagram at Hidden Path Creative, or my website is hiddenpathcreative.com. And right now I work with brands I do one-on-one custom packaging design, or I do branding and packaging design. And I'm adding in a few offers that, you know, can support people with more of, right now I essentially have a sourcing guide with a packaging printer list. that you can grab as well. It's just a list of all of the packaging suppliers and printers that I've worked with that I think have really great offerings. But I'm always down to chat, always down to look at any, fun packaging you see out in the market. So feel free to drop it on my Instagram.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Kelley. So nice to see you. And thank you so much for chatting about packaging.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Carrie.